Hello and welcome to Wednesday Warfare, where I review NXT and AEW Dynamite back-to-back and try and figure out which show won for the week. Let's begin right away with this week's NXT, the first one after Survivor Series. This episode also without Mauro Ranallo. Damn it, Corey Graves. Anyway, the show begins with Big American Party. The entire NXT locker room, and I'm guessing some extras, show up celebrating their big Survivor Series victory, even wearing like t-shirts that have like the scoreboard from the end of the pay-per-view. Suddenly the Undisputed Era come out and claim sole responsibility for NXT's success on Sunday. Ciampa cuts them off and says what happened at War Games is the beginning of the end for the Undisputed Era and their reign with all their championships and whatnot. Finn Balor comes out and says that he is standing in Ciampa's way, and Ciampa tells the Prince that he has met his king. We'll see those two face off later in the night, but then Keith Lee grabs the mic and says he wants the tag title match to happen right now, and so it does. Undisputed Era defending against Lee and Dijakovic, who became the #1 contenders based on their performance over the weekend. Just before the commercial break, Lee actually dumps Bobby Fish out of the ring, and Fish lands hard on his knee, which causes him to leave the match entirely and be replaced by Roderick Strong during the commercial break. He's still in his civvies, still just wearing jeans as he's wrestling there, so kudos to Strong for filling in for him. I was scared when I first watched that clip. I thought that Bobby's head hit the mat really hard. Turns out the knee was more the issue. So either way, I hope he's okay. I hope nothing really happens to him. He's been very injury prone last couple of years since he's been signed to NXT. And you know, this match, I got to give all four guys credit for working with this injury and all of a sudden the substitution with Roderick Strong. But there was a definite awkward period where they were trying to find themselves, like just a lot of awkward points where there's like standing there waiting for something to happen, waiting for somebody to call a move, and something was going on. So things got a little more cohesive by the end of the match. So the marks of great professionals, all of them, to make it work and make it look mostly good. In the end, like Adam Cole makes his way out to the ring and Keith Lee just pounces him way the fuck out of his shoes into the crowd from the ramp, which is very impressive. And we see Dominic in the ring looking so stunned at what he sees, he's completely oblivious to the high-low he's about to get from Strong and O'Reilly. Undisputed Era win the match. They retain the championships. Like, it was a good match, and in a way, it was good because of how they recovered after Bobby's injury. It still had some awkward moments, like some growing pains after the substitution. But then, like, the finish kind of was sour to me because it made Dominic look super dumb. Like, I'm just gonna stand here like an idiot while these other two guys hit me in the face. Backstage, Candice LeRae is being interviewed. She's upset at what Dakota Kai did to her good friend Tegan Knox at War Games, and much like Lex Luger in his tight-fitting t-shirt, she's pissed now. Up next, Shane Thorne taking on Mansoor. They showed some of Manny's highlights from this year during the Saudi Arabia shows, winning the 50-man Battle Royal at Super Showdown, then beating Cesaro at Crown Jewel back in October. But you know, none of those compare to his work as Cole Quinn in the 2K games. Anyway, it's a quick 4-minute matchup. Mansoor wins after he flies all over the place in the matchup. Good luck for Mansoor there. Candice LeRae taking on Dakota Kai. It didn't take Dakota long to get a heelified entrance. New theme, new entrance video, and a whole new demeanor. The gimmick, the whole outfit, still very bright and bubbly and babyface. Hopefully that will change soon in the near future. She comes out carrying Tegan Knox's knee brace that she ripped off of her leg during the beatdown at War Games. You know, I wondered in my War Games review, how they would pull off Dakota Kai as a heel. I think they did a really good job in this matchup. Just the body language, subtle changes in her body language, and some of the moves she did, I think really put over the new viciousness and the nastiness of Dakota Kai as a heel. Really scary looking bump in this match. At one point, they're both on the apron, and Candice hits a German of some kind onto Dakota, and she barely grazes the apron with her shoulder before coming right down to the floor. Like, can we please not have people killing themselves on floor bumps tonight? That'd be really awesome. The match ends in a DQ when Dakota hits Candice with the knee brace from earlier, beats her up on the outside a bit. I think she even breaks one of Candice's teeth in the process. Dakota grabs a chair, and then Rhea Ripley makes a save in the nick of time with like a jumping, flying karate kick to knock the chair out of Dakota's hands as she runs off and everything. It's disappointing the match ended in a DQ, but the match itself still told a great story, did a really good job getting Dakota over as this new vicious heel. I'm looking forward to seeing what more of her stylings will bring. We see a backstage interview with Tommaso Ciampa where he says that he made NXT the A show, not Finn Balor, and if Finn gets in his way, it's a big mistake. Then we see a vignette for Cameron Grimes in the swamp somewhere, very on brand. We then go to a Cruiserweight Championship match as Leah Rush defends against Akira Tozawa Tozawa from Raw. A funny moment early on when these guys both catch each other's foot during a kick, and they have to both agree to put each other's foot down and then resume the match. This thing goes crazy after a while. At one point, Akira does a German to Leo off the apron onto the floor, which is insane. Leo wins the match, ultimately with a pair of final hours to win. What a great match. Kind of surprised we didn't see any involvement from Angel Garza in this match, considering that they spent a lot of time on this show talking about like the conflict that Leo and Angel have had over the last couple of weeks. But maybe they're saving it for next week. We saw that Ciampa interview earlier, and then we see Finn Balor's counterpoint where he says tonight Ciampa will meet the Prince. Our next match sees Xia Li taking on Vanessa Bourne. A couple of weeks ago, Xia had a match with Aaliyah, saw her kicking Aaliyah in the face and apparently breaking her nose, very bloody looking thing. Apparently that was actually just kind of a kayfabe injury to write her off for surgery, but now her friend Vanessa Bourne looking for some kayfabe revenge. Very short match here, kind of like the one with Aaliyah. Very soon into the match, we see Shayna Baszler and her friends on the stage. Xia takes care of business, takes out Vanessa Bourne in pretty quick fashion. Then afterward, Baszler and her buddies just take out Xia Li, beat her up, and then Shayna on the microphone taking more credit for NXT's victory, their win on Sunday at Survivor Series. Rhea Ripley comes out and says, you know what, you may have beat Bayley and Becky Lynch, but you haven't beaten me. You didn't beat me at War Games. And so she says next time she's coming for the NXT Women's Championship. Shayna says, I've heard it all before, but you're going to go down just like everybody else. Rhea says, how about tonight? And then Shayna balks. So great look for Rhea standing her ground here. I'm loving how they're building her up as of the last few weeks. And, you know, as related to the match itself we just saw, Xia looks good too. In your main event, Tommaso Ciampa taking on Finn Balor. It's Finn's first match at Full Sail in over 3 years. It was a good match, but you could tell they were kind of holding back here a bit. Like you could tell, like, you know, they could do a lot more if they really wanted to, and if the platform was right. You know, takeover is one thing, but hey, this is TV. You can slow down for this one, pal. Anyway, the match ends when Adam Cole shows up and he brings the title in the ring. It gets dropped there. Incidental contact when Finn drops Ciampa onto the belt on accident. I liked Finn's body language here because it looks like, oh, he fucked up, but he looks at the referee and she's not doing anything because it was an accident, so they go through that anyway. As the referee gets the belt out of the ring, when her back's turned, Cole kicks Ciampa in the head, allowing Finn to hit the 1916 to win the matchup. Then after the match, both Finn and Cole are standing over Ciampa's prone body, Finn doing the finger guns thing, and Cole like pats him on the back. Big Pele kick to Cole, so Finn is the last one standing here as we fade to black. Everybody wants a shot at Adam Cole's championship, and you know, it seems like what they planned the seeds for, the day that Finn Balor re-debuted on NXT, seems to be coming to fruition now. Triple threat match definitely seems to be in the cards in the very near future. AEW's live in Chicago this week, and it opens up with Chris Jericho's Thanksgiving Thank You celebration, and who's the MC but Soul Train Jones. I'm not even mad, that's amazing. There's balloons, there's a live marching band on the ramp, there's a bunch of guys in inflatable mascot costumes surrounding the ring. The whole time I thought, well, some wrestler's gonna pop out of one of those costumes and attack Jericho, right? Well, that was not the case. More on that later though. Jericho comes out, introduces the official Little Bit of the Bubbly. Yes, Jericho now has his own line of champagne, which is pretty awesome, but how could they not have waited one more week to announce that when they're going to be in Champaign, Illinois? Complete missed opportunity. Anyway, the rest of the Inner Circle come out. Sammy Guevara's gift to Jericho is a giant cardboard cutout of Sammy and Jericho hugging, and then Proud and Powerful present Jericho with a Boricua gift basket. They declare him an honorary Boricua and put a bandana on him, and then where's Jake Hager? He's near the stage with a live goat. Chris Jericho, in fact. And then what's in the giant box in the ring? JR goes, Abdullah? And they open it up, and it's Ted Irvine, Chris Jericho's father and former player for the New York Rangers. And even he's a heel, because he's healing on the Blackhawks as this whole thing's going on. Never knew he had it in him. He gives the group all custom Rangers jerseys as well. Jericho brings in Justin Roberts to read off the thank you letter written by AEW and TNT executives, but Jericho did not like Justin's tone when he read it, so they start beating him up. And a great line on commentary here, Excalibur going, who gets beat up in their hometown? And JR goes, that's unheard of in wrestling. Out come SCU, who were disguised as marching band members the whole time to, you know, chase them off and beat them up a little bit. I love that Masters of Disguise is just suddenly SCU's thing now, because the last 2 weeks we saw Chris Daniels getting involved in Lucha Brothers stuff, just dressed as other members of the Lucha Brothers, and now they're all dressed as marching band guys. They just have these costumes on hand. How far is that going to go? But anyway, this was just an amazing segment. So funny. It was just so on brand for Jericho. And I love that the Inner Circle, they're like supposed to be the top heels in the company, but they're also completely goofy. It's like 5 Chris Jerichos. It's almost too much, but it works out just so well when they go with this completely over-the-top celebration like they did here. First matchup sees the Best Friends taking on the Lucha Brothers. And speaking of them and Christopher Daniels, how come there was no follow-up on the last couple of weeks of content? Because for the last 2 weeks, Daniels had been messing with Pentagon and Rey Fenix, wearing their masks and everything. And so why are they wrestling the Best Friends this week? That made no sense to me. By the way, Trent and Chucky T are accompanied by Orange Cassidy, who is dressed as a turkey, it being the night before Thanksgiving and all. I did like Pentagon's Venom-inspired mask this week. That was awesome. I hated the third man on commentary for this matchup, Marco Martinez, apparently part of the All Elite Fleet. Whatever that is, they made no effort in trying to explain us what the hell that meant. And boy, commentary, not that guy's strong suit. He was completely mush-mouthed, completely unintelligible, very quiet as well. Whatever your day job is in the All Elite Fleet, don't quit it. It was a pretty good match. The real shocker here is when Trent actually beats Pentagon in the middle of the ring with the Crunchy. Second week in a row, he's beaten a member of the Lucha Brothers with that move. Marco Martinez mumbles the word incredible. Please don't bring that guy back, or if you're going to do that, at least give him some coffee beforehand. Women's tag team match up next as Bea Priestley and Emi Sakura take on Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander, who's making her AEW Dynamite debut this week. It's an okay match, feels a little long on the tooth, and the crowd is very flat for it for the most part. It ends when Sakura hits Statlander from behind with the mic stand and then rolls her up for the win. At least the crowd responded in the correct way to that resounding boos. We get a Jon Moxley promo backstage where he challenges anybody who's crazy enough to take the first shot at him, so who will it be? Our next match sees Cody taking on Marvelous Matt Nix, who's not only the owner of Freelance Wrestling in Chicago, but he was also a participant in the influencer Brian Zane's $1 Million Battle Royal earlier this year at WrestleMania weekend. He gets a nice freelance chant when he wrestles. It's a really short squash match. Cody hits a springboard cutter and a figure 4 to win pretty handily. Then after the match is over, Cody grabs the mic and he's calling out MJF and Wardlow. As he's talking though, somebody cuts a hole on the canvas behind him. He pops out of the ring and it's the Blade. And that's all we really know about him. It's the Blade. And then out come the Butcher. So the Butcher and the Blade beat down Cody, and out comes Allie, who's now the Bunny, and she's a heel all of a sudden for no real reason. We just saw her a couple weeks ago and she was a face last I checked, but then she's a heel now. She is the real life wife of the Blade, by the way, so that explains why they're a unit all here. But man, this debut really went over like a wet fart. I think the live crowd didn't know how to react to it. They didn't know who these people were. Like, they were the wrong part of the country to debut the Butcher and the Blade. They're like a Northeast tag team, and I don't know how many people who are watching AEW like on TV or live in the crowd follow the Northeast indie wrestling scene, because there was no reaction to this, and the announcers were not helping, because it was Excalibur going, the Blade, the Blade, the Butcher, the Bunny, the Blade and the Butcher, and the Bunny. Like, can you just tell us who these people are and why it's important? Like, we had no context to that. He's like, it's very similar to when the Dark Order debuted at Double or Nothing, where Excalibur goes, I know who these people are, but I'm not going to tell you. Like, just tell us why this is important. I feel like, for the most part, all these surprise debuts on AEW have really not been impactful, or as impactful as you would hope they are. I'm happy for the Butcher and the Blade to get signed and work for AEW. That's great, but this segment just did not work. Kenny Omega taking on Pac in a rematch from All Out. This is another great match between these guys. Lots of grappling and big strikes and big risks being taken by both of them. It ends when they're trading crucifix pins. Kenny Omega counters one into the other, ends up actually pinning Pac, so he gets his win back from All Out. It is Pac's second pinfall loss in AEW, so that's kind of significant as well. And so yeah, we'll see what happens to Kenny now that he's finally beaten Pac, and maybe he'll be cured of the slump he's been in for the last several months. It's time for the Dynamite Diamond Ring match as MJF takes on Hangman Page. These two earn the right to fight for this fancy diamond ring after being the last two men standing in last week's Battle Royal. MJF cheats to win after some assistance from Wardlow on the outside. MJF hits his own version of the Crossroads, which they call the Double Cross, and it looks like dog shit. At least everything before that moment was good, though. DDP arrives after the match to present the ring to the winner. DDP starts criticizing criticizing MJF, but he congratulates him anyway. MJF takes his gum out and puts it in DDP's hand, and then Wardlow gets in between them, and MJF saying, "You're going to look really stupid when a 63-year-old man kicks your ass all over the streets of Chicago." We get a bit of a scuffle, pull apart from security and everything, and that's where it pretty much ends. MJF was very entertaining here, and it was pretty obvious from the get-go he was going to win this thing, but does he even really need it? I feel like for the last few weeks they've been adding all these gimmicks to him that he doesn't need. It's like all these heat magnets, like we're going to give you a bodyguard, we're going to give you a diamond ring, we're going to have you heel on Diamond Dallas Page. Like none of that is necessary for him. He doesn't need to do any of that because he's such a good heel on his own. You know, the bodyguard's fine, that's one thing, but they're adding all these layers on him that are just so unnecessary because he's already such an effective heel. He doesn't need all these gimmicks to get heat. He has plenty on his own. So I thought that was a little excessive, basically. Like, Hangman Page, I knew he wasn't going to win it either. I don't know who else you'd give that distinction to in the first place if this was solely done to get MJF over as a heel. Like, fine, but you didn't need that. Dustin Rhodes is in the ring. He's cutting a promo on Jake Hager saying he's out for his blood. Doesn't get very far in the promo though until Sammy Guevara and Proud and Powerful run and start beating him up. The Young Bucks even things up, and then we get a triple Shattered Dreams or Unnatural Kick to end the segment, and we find out later that they're going to be in a 6-man tag team match next week on Dynamite. My question was, where was Jake Hager in this segment? I mean, was he backstage feeding the goat? We get another vignette for the Dark Order. I like this one a lot, actually. I think it was less cheesy advertisement from the week before and more of a look at the insidious nature of the Dark Order and how they indoctrinate their pledges and the mysterious nature surrounding it. We actually see a little bit of an unmasked Evil Uno before it reveals he's got the mask, and everyone has the mask at the whole end of the bit there. So yeah, I really enjoyed this scene. Main event time, AEW Championship on the line as Chris Jericho defends against Scorpio Sky, the only man who has actually pinned Jericho in AEW. It's a really good match here. Jericho looks like he's going to lose multiple times in this one. It's a classic, you know, like plucky babyface underdog story where like he's so many close calls for Scorpio to win this thing. They say that the seconds, the members of SCU and the Inner Circle are banned from ringside. Yeah, there's no punishment when Jake Hager shows up at ringside and tries to interfere. SCU do show up to even the odds and neutralize Hager, which is fine, I guess. So ultimately, Jericho makes Sky tap out to the walls of Jericho. So yeah, valiant effort by Sky here. Great match to end the show with Jericho retaining. After Jericho puts more of a hurting on Sky, Jon Moxley appears in the crowd and just kind of a stare down with Jericho. Seems that Jericho's next title contender is set in stone here with Moxley appearing as we fade to black. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, NXT or AEW Dynamite. And this week, once again, my choice is NXT. I think it was a stronger show overall. You know, I think this was actually one of the rougher episodes of Dynamite I've watched in quite some time. You know, last week, NXT had all these main roster guys, these Raw and SmackDown guys coming in to invade for part of the Survivor Series build. This week, AEW responds with DDP and Virgil. Like, okay, great, like DDP's awesome, Virgil's funny, but like, is that a real good counterpunch? You know, AEW had one awesome segment, which honestly, if that went the full 2 hours, I would have given them the win. It was that good of a segment. But one awesome segment, a couple of good matches, but a lot of other stuff on the show felt really underwhelming or flat, or I didn't get the reaction I think they were going for in this one. Meanwhile, NXT, I think, had a lot of great action from beginning to end, some great character development, especially with Dakota Kai, and some nice setup for future angles in both the women's division and with the main event scene with the NXT Championship. So yeah, like I said, from beginning to end, stronger show overall than AEW. Love the Jericho celebration thing, but that was not enough to buoy AEW this week. But let me know what you thought about AEW and NXT this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.